A major Supreme Court ruling clears the way for sweeping federal layoffs. An AI voice scam targets world leaders. And after nearly 2 decades, you might finally get to keep your shoes on at airport security. And today's trivia question, are you allowed to bring a live lobster through TSA security? I'll tell you at the end of the show. It's Wednesday, July 9th. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Flyover Podcast. I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown. We are once again halfway through the work week, and summer is flying by. So maybe you're dragging the kids to swim class like I did with my big guy yesterday, or you're working out, listening to us at the gym. There's some of you who are stuck in traffic right now. I know it. No matter where you're watching or listening from, we are so glad that you're here. Let's take off with the biggest headlines of the day. We're starting with a major Supreme Court decision that could reshape the federal workforce. On Tuesday, the court gave President Trump the go-ahead to proceed with mass layoffs and a broad reorganization of federal agencies. The ruling came in the form of a brief, unsigned order lifting a lower court's block. It allows the administration to move forward with plans to overhaul 21 departments, including Commerce, Energy, and Health and Human Services, though individual agency plans can still be challenged down the line. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a dissent calling the decision, quote, senseless and warning it opens the door to unchecked executive power. Next up, an alarming case of AI abuse on the world stage. A fake voice clone of Secretary of State Marco Rubio was used in an attempted scam targeting foreign leaders and U.S. officials. According to a leaked State Department cable, the AI-generated voice contacted at least 3 foreign ministers and at least 2 U.S. officials via the encrypted app Signal in mid-June, leaving voicemails and texts that appeared to come from Rubio himself. The goal seems to have been to extract sensitive information, and officials say the impersonator had an unusually detailed knowledge of State Department procedures. Embassies and diplomatic posts have now been warned to stay alert for similar hoaxes. And finally, an air travel rule nearly 2 decades old is coming to an end. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced Tuesday that air travelers in the U.S. will no longer have to remove their shoes at TSA checkpoints. That's right, the long-standing rule in place since 2006 is finally being phased out. Noem said the change is designed to, quote, drastically decrease passenger wait times and create a more efficient screening experience. The updated policy is already active at major hubs like LAX and LaGuardia, with a full nationwide rollout expected very soon. This move follows years of complaints from travelers and security experts alike who questioned the effectiveness of the shoes-off rule, which originally went into effect after the failed 2001 shoe bombing attempt by Richard Reed. Passengers may still need to remove their shoes if they set off the scanner, but for most people, this is definitely one less thing to juggle in the security line. More on this developing story can be found in the show notes below. In political news, let's start with a new military pledge from the White House. President Trump has reportedly committed to sending 10 additional Patriot missile systems to Ukraine, boosting the country's air defenses amid ongoing Russian strikes. He's also urging Germany to sell one of its Patriots batteries to Kiev in a coordinated Western effort to shield Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. This move comes as NATO allies meet to discuss long-term support strategies. Next, a major shift in IRS policy affecting churches and politics. The IRS announced Tuesday that churches can now endorse political candidates during services without jeopardizing their tax-exempt status. The move marks a significant departure from previous enforcement under the Johnson Amendment, which had restricted direct political endorsements from pulpit for decades. The change could have wide-reaching effects heading into the 2026 midterms. Meanwhile, tensions are rising between the White House and New York City politics. President Trump is threatening to assert federal control over New York City if mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani wins in November. President Trump called Mamdani a communist and a disaster, suggesting federal oversight may be necessary to, quote, restore order. It's unclear what legal grounds such as an intervention would rest on, but the comments signal how national politics could shape this year's local elections. And finally, a rock star turned political hopeful is switching races. Tim Myers, a founding member of the band One Republic, is dropping his run for Congress and instead launching a bid for lieutenant governor of California. Myers, who's also known for producing music for TV and film, had been running as a moderate Democrat and says the state-level post offers a better platform for his policy goals. Today's episode is brought to you by David. Each bar packs 28 grams of protein, just 150 calories, and 0 sugar. Unlike most bars that are basically candy in disguise, David keeps it clean with high protein, low calorie, and no junk. And if you're trying to hit your protein goals without wrecking your diet, David makes that easy. Just grab a David bar and go, because protein helps build muscle, protect your bones, and keep you strong, especially as we get older. And with multiple flavors to choose from, just get that variety pack, because if you buy 4 cartons, you're going to get the 5th free. Head to davidprotein.com or click on the link in the description below to check it out for yourself. Yummy. Here are some bonus stories just for listeners of the Flyover Podcast. First, the White House is pushing back hard after a wave of criticism over the deadly flooding in Texas. On Monday, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called it a, quote, depraved lie to suggest President Trump's staffing cuts at the National Weather Service contributed to the disaster. That response came after Senator Chuck Schumer and Representative Joaquin Castro called for an investigation, pointing to reported forecast delays and staffing gaps at the agency. The NWS did issue warnings and watches before the storm, but the speed and volume of the flash flooding caught many by surprise. The death toll now stands at least 109, including 28 children. Next, a new third-party effort is picking up steam, with a familiar name stepping in. Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang says he's been in touch with Elon Musk about Musk's newly announced America Party, which aims to challenge the country's two-party system. Yang, who co-founded the Forward Party, says he's open to advising the effort, but stressed that meaningful political change has to come from the ground up, not just big names at the top. Musk launched the America Party after publicly splitting from President Trump over his recent tax and spending bill. And finally, it might be time to dig that umbrella out of the closet, but not for the rain. As extreme heat continues across much of the U.S., UV-blocking sun umbrellas are making a comeback, especially among Americans looking for more portable sun protection. Dermatologists say the best ones have a UPF 50+ rating and darker fabric, which can block up to 99% of harmful rays. Still, experts recommend combining them with sunscreen and protective clothing, since umbrellas don't shield you from all of the angles or reflective surfaces. That's your podcast extra roundup. Looking forward to giving you more exclusive content, of course, in tomorrow's episode. Coming up, Amazon is doing something very different for Prime Day. An MLB All-Star sitting out of the Home Run Derby this year, and a possible new cure for male-patterned baldness. It's all coming up. Here's a quick update in finance. In May, nearly 47% of homeowners pulled their listings compared to last year, refusing to lower prices and choosing to wait out a cooler market. While active listings rose nearly 29%, bringing total inventory to a post-pandemic high, homes linger on the market longer, around 53 days, and only about 1 in 5 listings saw price cuts, the highest June rate since at least 2016. Experts say sellers, backed by strong home equity, prefer holding steady over selling at less than peak prices. Next, Kirk Tanner, who's helmed Wendy's since February of 2024, will become the Hershey Company's next CEO on August 18th, stepping in for Michelle Buck, who's retiring after nearly 2 decades with the company. Tanner's departure leaves Wendy's with CFO Ken Cook as interim CEO while the board initiates a search. At Hershey, he'll guide the company through cocoa price challenges and evolving snack preferences. And Amazon just kicked off its longest ever Prime Day, running July 8th through the 11th with a new format. Deals dropping every 5 minutes to target summer shoppers dealing with inflation and global tariff worries. While this rapid-fire deal structure aims to boost mid-year sales, many sellers anticipated it, warehousing stock in advance, so discounts may have been modest rather than steep. Anyways, happy shopping. Here's how the market did yesterday. Markets closed mixed on Tuesday. The Nasdaq eked out a modest gain, rising 0.03%, while the S&P 500 slipped 0.07%. The Dow dropped 0.37%, led by losses in energy and industrials. Bitcoin, it inched up nearly 0.5%, while gold slid 0.64% to $3,311 per ounce. One standout was QuantumScape, which surged nearly 17% after receiving an analyst upgrade, boosting optimism around its solid-state battery technology. In sports news, Stanford is taking a look at its water polo coach. Head coach Brian Flax is under investigation after 2 separate probes into his intense leadership style. The first review, prompted by complaints from parents and players, cleared him of rule violations, but noted his approach could feel overwhelming. But now a second investigation has been launched, examining allegations that he retaliated against athletes who spoke up, reportedly yelling at them, threatening to cut their playing time, and even discouraging them from staying on the team. Some players say they experienced anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and panic attacks under that pressure. Stanford officials promise it's taking the claims seriously. Next, Mets slugger Pete Alonso is sitting out the home run derby for the first time. Pete Alonso, a perennial home run derby favorite, is sitting this one out to rest and stay healthy for the second half of the season. He says he, quote, loves the event, but this year just didn't feel right. Though he expects to return, especially if future derbies land at Citi Field, Fenway, or Wrigley. Finally, Lionel Messi's future could be headed to the desert. Saudi club Al Ahly says it's willing to do, quote, whatever it takes to lure Messi from Inter Miami, offering a lucrative deal to bring the Argentine star to Saudi Arabia. With Messi approaching the twilight of his career, this could be his last major move. So stay tuned on that. In science and tech, researchers from the University of Sheffield and ComStats University discovered a DNA sugar that, when formed into a biodegradable gel, triggered 80 to 90% hair regrowth in mice with male pattern baldness. The gel appears to boost blood vessel formation around follicles, making it a natural side effect-free alternative worth watching as human trials begin. You can learn more about that, by the way, in the show notes below. Next, Twitter and Square co-founder Jack Dorsey has quietly released a new encrypted messaging app called BitChat. It works over Bluetooth mesh networks, no Wi-Fi, no cell service, enabling private chats within a 100 to 300 meter range. Still in beta, it's aimed at disaster zones, festivals, or situations where the internet just isn't available. And next, a delicate jawbone unearthed in Arizona has been identified as the oldest known North American pterosaur, dating to about 209 million years ago. This seagull-sized flying reptile was discovered in a rich Triassic bone bed alongside turtles, early frogs, and crocodile ancestors, offering a rare glimpse of early vertebrate life. Coming up, have you been trying to get your Gen Z preteens to just get out of the bathroom? Are they taking too long in there? Well, maybe they're doing a new trend called bathroom camping. I'll tell you what that is right around the corner. Let's get into some stories that we just couldn't leave out. We'll start with a little tension at 30,000 feet. Well, right after landing. French First Lady Brigitte Macron made headlines again after brushing off President Emmanuel Macron's offer to help while exiting a plane in Britain. This comes just weeks after she was caught on camera shoving him aside during a Vietnam photo op. Some are chalking it up to playful chemistry. Others aren't so sure. Either way, it's not your usual red carpet moment. Now to a road that really hits all the right notes. A stretch of highway in the United Arab Emirates is now playing Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Literally, engineers carved grooves into the pavement so that when cars drive at exactly 60 miles an hour, the rumble strips create a musical tune. It's part of a road safety campaign meant to encourage consistent speeds, and honestly, it might be the most sophisticated speed trap we've ever seen. You can hear the song and see the video by clicking in the show notes below. And next, a new trend called bathroom camping is bubbling up online, especially on TikTok, where people, typically Gen Z, spend extended time in stalls, not to use the restroom, but to escape stress, find some quiet, or just take a mental break. Some simply scroll on their phones or zone out, while others say it's a coping mechanism rooted in anxiety, PTSD, or childhood trauma. One TikToker shared, quote, "There's nothing going on in the bathroom. It's just me and me." While critics point out that continued bathroom stays can inconvenience others. Something to think about if quiet escape is what you're after, or if you're stuck outside of a locked stall. And from classical to chaotic, 4 men were arrested in Orlando on July 4th after Florida Highway Patrol spotted their car doing donuts and launching fireworks from the passenger seat. Yes, while the vehicle was in motion. Video shows the car spinning in circles in the middle of a busy intersection. No injuries were reported, but charges include reckless driving and illegal use of explosives. That makes sense. Here's yesterday's poll question and the results. I'm really excited to read them because we talked about AI-generated music in yesterday's podcast. So the question is, would you listen to music generated by AI? 53% of you voted no, I prefer human-made. 40% said maybe if it's good. 4% said yes, sounds futuristic. And 3% of you said I already do. All right. I like that. Here's the poll question for today. We were just talking about bathroom camping. So, have you ever camped in a bathroom to avoid a social situation? Wow. Here it is. Yep. Needed a breather? Once or twice. Thought about it? Or never have? Here's the thing. I'm just now remembering this. When I was in 6th grade, I got invited to a birthday party and I got pushed in the pool for no reason. I was just walking by and I felt so embarrassed that I went into the bathroom to get away from everyone and cry and call my dad to come pick me up. So that's when I was 12. Okay. Now that I'm an adult, as a mom of an almost 3-year-old and a 14-month-old boy, I would do anything to have just a little bit of extra peace and quiet. I read somewhere that mothers get an average of only 17 minutes to themselves every day, and that tracks for me. So next time I need space, I'm going to say, sorry, boys, mama's going camping. I'll read your answers in tomorrow's show. Vote in the link in the show notes below. I can't wait to read your answers. All right, we were talking about all of the TSA changes that are coming up, including being able to keep your shoes on. But speaking of TSA, here's today's trivia question. Are you allowed to bring a live lobster through TSA security? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. You can bring a live lobster through TSA, but it has to be properly packed. According to the Transportation Security Administration, a live lobster is allowed in a carry-on bag if it's in a clear, spill-proof plastic container. Though unusual, this type of screening is not uncommon at coastal airports, particularly during peak travel seasons when seafood transport increases. As someone who's from Massachusetts, I will tell you I've never seen anybody traveling with a lobster. Yeah, no. So I'm not sure if that tracks for me. But maybe it wasn't an emotional support lobster. I'm not sure. Anyways, thank you for listening, watching, rating, and sharing the Flyover podcast. We always appreciate 5-star reviews. And if you're wondering, we do read the comments as well. So thank you to everyone who comments on each and every episode. I will see you tomorrow. It's Thursday tomorrow. We're getting so close to the end of the week. Until then, thanks for flying with us.